In special topics, I want to play revolution, and I can't. It won't work. Think of it. All right. So slaves. How much will slaves be counted in the population? And towards what two things? And represents and taxation. But what section did it favor? Who picks the president?
Electors.
How many electorates did each state have? How many members of what?
The same amount of in Congress.
Congress, yep. How many does Montana have?
4.
4. Does electoral college favor big states or small states? Small states, yeah.
So I know that you said the music like doesn't really match up with actual history, but what I'm wondering is like, was Alexander Hamilton notable at the Constitutional Convention?
Not really, no.
So it's a lie.
Here's what happened at the Constitutional Convention. New York was mad that they decided to go against what they were supposed to do and just refine the articles and said we're going to throw the whole thing out. So New York voted to have the entire delegation leave. Hamilton was one of the New York delegations, so he left. He popped in one day and said we need a king, and then left. Now he had some influence because he was writing letters, but he was not that. Literally, he was there for 2 days, essentially. And it was literally, actually what he said is we need a dictator. I was very Hamilton. All right, so it doesn't mean it's bad. I've actually only seen, so we showed you all this, no democracy. Aren't those 2 horrible pictures of both of them? We got to this, right? Okay, House or Senate? House or Senate? Which one is picked by the voters? House. Which one has, how many senators per state?
2.
How many senators does Montana have? 2. Only 2. Does Electoral College and this government, or the Senate, who does it favor big states, small states? Really favor small states, yep. And a lot of votes are lost in Electoral College. It's just because we don't do the popular vote. We have 51 separate little elections. That is, yeah. So in 2024, we're going to see if you lived in Michigan, or especially lived in Wisconsin or Georgia, Arizona, you're going to be in it. You have nothing but 24 hours a day television ads for president. Montana, we don't get any except on national because no one cares. All right, so we got all this. We get to this?
No.
Oh, let me say one thing really quick. Did I mention? Yeah, I did. What did northern states call the 3/5 compromise because it favored the South so much? Slave power. Slave power. These are all the American presidents who had slaves. Right? Only one of them was opposed to slavery. Grant despised slavery, but his father-in-law gave him a slave as a gift, as basically a wedding present, and he didn't know what to do. So before the Civil War, before the Civil War on his own, he freed the slave. Basically, when he thought he away from, so emancipated, so the enslaved person was given freedom. He tried to help him out a little bit, but yeah. The rest of them were all slaveholders. Andrew Johnson had nothing. He was born maybe the poorest president in American history, had nothing, but that was one of the big things. In the South, you made it, you got a slave. That's how you showed you made it. Yeah. What year? 1868 to 1869 to 1870. He was elected in 68. But he didn't take office until 1867, 69. Left office 1877.
Oh.
Presidents are elected. Like the president's elected. Next one, like Biden was elected in 2020, but inaugurated in 2020. And most of these people were relatively wealthy or very wealthy, except for basically these. Jackson was an orphan. Grant was not poor, but not wealthy. Jack born very poor. Oh, very poor. Okay, so Jackson's a complex character. The third compromise, once you deal with slavery, was called the Commerce. The Commerce or Slave Trade Compromise. Basically, remember, the whole point of that Annapolis Conference was we demand interstate and international commerce. And so, everyone decided, Congress should regulate trade, but what about the slave trade? Could they stop the slave trade, the interstate or international? That was the issue, the slave trade. Because everybody knew regulating commerce would be a massive issue. Regulation means control, organized, trained at this era. We'll get to the trained in a second. So what did that mean? The compromise was this. Congress can regulate commerce, international and interstate. Congress can pass laws to do this, but they're not going to touch the slave trade for 20 years. They could put a small tax on the slaves, but what we care about is in 20 years. This is a picture from the 1840s. 20 years. Madison would write in his notes, in 20 years, this pernicious institution should be gone. Pernicious means evil. And Madison really believed, or maybe he wanted to. A better way to look at it is, Madison wanted to believe that slavery would no longer be important and would be gone in 20 years. Because it's very important to understand. Everybody knew slavery was wrong. Everybody knew it was immoral. Trust me, nobody wanted to be a slave. That didn't mean they took advantage of it. They could argue, we had no choice, or this is the only way we can get what we want done, or this shows I made it. But they all knew it was wrong. And so they were hoping it'd be gone. Would it be gone? Absolutely not. In fact, Madison is about ready to become president and would do a lot to protect slavery. He had lots. He had returned slaves too. So those are the three major compromises. The Great Compromise, the Three-Fifths, the slave trade. And these two, nobody really liked, especially the Three-Fifths. Nobody liked that one. As it turned out, it helped Southerners by slave power, but they didn't like it. And the Great Compromise were a bunch of compromises too. And so they came out of it with this. But we got to talk about a couple things about the government, because one of the concepts that's very important we have to get to is this idea of separation of powers. Madison was greatly influenced by this skeletal-looking guy who's trying to look like a Roman senator. His name was Baron de Montesquieu. And Montesquieu wrote that there are three major branches of government that carry out the power. The executive, so carry out the laws, interpreting them. Judicial, so basically what they would have said is a court of last resort. And the legislative branch, which makes the laws. And these three should be separate. He grew up at the time of Louis XV, the autocratic monarch of France, great-grandson of Louis XIV. So the influence of Louis XIV and Louis XV. And they ruled as an autocrat, meaning they had complete power over all three. And therefore, tyranny and corruption. And so what Montesquieu said is there must be separate branches. So you notice in the United States Constitution, we have a separate executive, which has like, how long is the term for the executive?
4 years.
4 years. And then we have separate legislature. How long is the term for the House? Senate? 6, yeah. And then a judicial we'll get to. And they're not equal. That's not their equal power. They knew certain ones would be more powerful. But one more thing, and don't worry about this, I'll explain it. And they also believe in the concept of checks and balances, but I decided not to put a quote to end it there, so I'm going to add more later.
So quotes
I just forgot.
Quotes or notebooks?
It's close form. Yeah, I think you should quote. I just didn't do it. And that was fun, so I'm not doing it. It doesn't say it in the Constitution, but this concept that each branches will have some kind of way to balance and control the power of the others. especially the one they were worried about for a very good reason was the executive. The executive has almost unlimited power. And they knew it. And so they wanted some controls. So you're going to draw something that looks like this. Executive. And we're going to put powers, not all the powers. No, don't worry about copying that. So I will actually do it on the board. Watch this. Watch this. Did you see that? It's gone. Oh, the darkness. All right. So we're going to draw executive, legislative, judicial. Judicial, there's virtually nothing about judicial. So the Constitution is listed in articles. They have articles. And they list out the powers. And the powers, for a very good reason, are very vague. They call these powers enumerated powers. Why enumerated? Because these are enumerated powers. And I gotta do something here on the give me 1 sec. Okay, enumerated powers. They're listed down, but they're vague because they understood that Congress needs the leeway, the executive needs the leeway to deal with the changing situations of the world. They didn't know exactly what was coming, but they could see a little bit of it. Britain was going through convulsions of change. So radical of change, they couldn't even wrap their mind around it, aka capitalism and the Industrial Revolution. They just couldn't wrap their mind around it. Capitalism comes from the Industrial Revolution. And it just was blowing them away. And so they knew things are going to be radically different. We will get to capitalism, trust me. And so, enumerated powers. These are the ones that are going to be listed on here. And a law is called, in the Constitution, a clause. All that means is a law. So they say like the Commerce Clause. And there are other ones, and we're obviously not going to go through every one, but we'll go through just a few to give you an idea. So on top is the executive. Now they're Article 2 because they don't have near as many enumerated powers, but by far it is the most, or the most powerful position, by far. And so the executive, now the basic function is, of the executive, is they do two big things. They carry out the laws. That's where you get executive. Execute laws. And even more important, they interpret the laws. So the laws come from Congress. Congress passes a law, passes a bill, the president signs, which we'll get to in a second, and then it's a law. And then the president decides how they'll interpret it, how they'll enforce it. That's the immense power. That is almost unlimited power. Almost unlimited power, how they interpret the laws. And that is the one they just knew, oh my God, that's a lot of power. Now, have you ever heard of something called an executive order? Presidents issue these all the time, especially now that Congress can't pass any laws. An executive order. And they'll talk about it like if you read it on the news or the newspaper, talk about it online, wherever, and they'll say the president, almost like the president made a law. No, it's not how the president made a law, it's how the president is interpreting the law. Gosh, is that power. I mean, so if the president is, let's say, really aggressive on environmental policies, they'll interpret it to enforce it aggressively, to put people in charge that really care about it. If they don't think environmental laws are that important, they will interpret it as, we're going to put people who won't really enforce it and not enforce it. That's power. That's power. I should add, that's politics. Politics, the least important part of politics is who wins or loses an election. It's this stuff. That's the real deal. And everyone talks about the elections, which of course are important. Wow, that's power. Then what else? They're the ones who, if they sign a bill. I can't write bill. That's how I make I's today. It becomes a law. If they sign a bill, it becomes a law. Basic function, but I want to make sure I get it down. They're the ones who deal with foreign affairs. Foreign affairs, so they speak for the country. And one more thing, they're the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The Constitution basically implies only in times of war, but Congress, who creates the Army, creates the Navy. This might shock you, but there was no Air Force at this time. I don't know if you know that. I know, but I just, and no, there was a Space Force, but, okay, that whole concept of that makes me laugh. I should have, Congress decided we better have the same commander-in-chief in peacetime as wartime. So that's why the president is commander-in-chief of the armed forces in peacetime also, which makes perfect sense. And I should add, the president is not your commander-in-chief. Yeah, but people always say he's my commander-in-chief. No, unless you're in the armed forces. Yeah. No, the president can't call. That's Congress. Yeah. So no, good question though. So if President Biden walked in and started ordering you around, you don't have to do it. Now the odds are President Biden walked in, we'd be so shocked, we'll do whatever. Because this might shock you. Presidents rarely visit my classroom. Rarely. Rarely. I know.
What's the last line?
Last one, Coolidge. The last one was Coolidge. There wasn't even in the building here. It's just farmland. And Coolidge showed up. We were both shocked. All right, so those are the basics. But here, I can't emphasize that enough. That is almost unlimited power. That's power. So you can imagine every president will do a little more, do a little more. And when the 20th century hit, you can just see it exponentially, the president taking more power. Every president. They all do it. And you get a lot of presidents saying, I will hand back the presidency to the people and do what, no. And then they all just take it. Now, we might agree sometimes with what they do or disagree, depending on the president. All right, so let's get to the next one. Now, there's going to be two little arrows. Those are the checks. But here is the legislative. The legislative branch. And that is Article 1. It has the most enumerated powers. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. I want to see these enumerated powers. I'll show you the way they're written in the Constitution. I will put the screen back up. Don't worry. Don't worry, calm down. Everything's cool. These are all the powers. These will be on the test. You must give them. No, I'm kidding. No. So basically it says, to Congress shall have the power, and then taxes, borrow money. You get the point here, coin money. Provide punishment of counterfeiters. By the way, counterfeiters would not be a big issue to the Civil War. They actually created somebody to look for counterfeiters because there was no real police branch of the federal government. Anybody know who Congress would create to look for counterfeiters? Hey, anybody know? Anybody know? No IRS yet. It's called the Secret Service. That's the biggest job for the Secret Service, to look for counterfeiters. They had nobody else. So after we had 2 presidential assassinations, we have 3 presidential assassinations in 40 years. They decided we needed somebody to watch the president. We had nobody else. Let's make the Secret Service. And you can see, I just want to put all of these up here. To establish post office, promote the science and useful arts. Tribunals for the superior court. Piracies and felonies committed on ice. You get the point here. Raise armies, declare war. So Congress has all these powers. Well, let's get to the ones that we care about here. And I'm doing this with the idea of how much will have impact down the road, but also historical precedent. So the most important power they have, remember the Articles of Confederation couldn't tax. So I'm going to put it up here because I don't want to bend. They have the power to tax. The power to tax is the power to govern. They needed the power to tax. The Articles did not have that. Now, it made it very clear. They're not the only ones who can tax. States can tax, cities can tax. That's a different, but they can't, they have the main power to tax. They coin or print currency, and I'm gonna put print because that's more important, and they borrow money. All the things that the Articles of Confederation could not do, AKA bonds. Remember bonds, yeah.
Is this in the legislature?
Yeah, this is all legislative power. These are all legislative. Now, I backtrack. This is not a power of the legislature. The legislature does not print money. They pass the law to print the money. Who does the printing? No. The Federal Reserve, they're the ones who distribute it. That's why they put Federal Reserve notes. But the Federal Reserve is also part of something else. The Bureau of Engraving does the actual printing. Who prints the money? The executive does everything. Virtually anything in government that you have any interaction with is the executive branch. If you've ever been to a national park, that's the executive branch. Tax collection, the executive branch. The armed forces, the executive branch. Environmental. I can go on everything. Congress does not do any of this. They just pass the laws. They have the power to pass the law. So when I say have the power, I want to be clear. It's the executive branch who carries this out. The Federal Reserve is quasi-independent, but technically part of the executive branch. Do you get the power here? You're starting to see the power? Wow, do they have power? So when Congress almost shut down the government on Saturday, it's all the executive branch that would be shut down, because that's where everything happens. Huh? No, they came in about 12 hours. But they passed a 45-day extension. Now there's no Speaker of the House, and the ruling party's in absolute disarray. And one of the few times, the Republican Party's in disarray, the Democratic Party, one of the few times unless they went through periods of disarray. They're not in disarray right now, so it's kind of unusual. It's kind of flopped. Before it was always the Republicans who were kind of organized. So we're in disarray right now. It's chaos. You guys have so much fun. It wasn't like this when I was a kid. You guys are riding the wave. Not necessarily, but we are playing with fire, that's for sure. All right, so let's get a few more. Let's get to that biggie. Congress can regulate commerce, interstate and international. That is huge. Interstate commerce. Interstate commerce gives them the power to regulate any product that's bought or sold, any product or service that has elements that cross state borders. Meaning, what products do you have right now that have not crossed the state border? Your clothes, shoes, phone.
Phone has crossed the border.
Huh?
The phone has crossed the border.
The what crossed the border?
The phones.
The phones? They've crossed the border. Every component, yeah. Clothing, crossed the border. Nobody here is wearing a piece of clothing that was made in Montana. Jam?
Yeah.
Where do you think jelly comes from? You go buy a jar of jelly?
Homemade jelly.
Huckleberries? I wonder where the glass came from that you put it in. Do you get the point? Yeah. I wonder where the fertilizer came from. I wonder where, did you get the point here? Yeah. The point is, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to find something that didn't cross the border. It's almost impossible. So what does that mean? Congress can regulate anything involved in that. Why do you think there are environmental laws? Interstate commerce. Why is there a minimum wage? Interstate commerce. Why is there no child labor laws? Interstate commerce. Now, some states are bringing back child labor laws. Thank goodness.
Yeah, get them to work.
They're doing that to put migrant children back. Let's go. A few more. I know now we're all thinking, well, this sure did. No, and this is the United States of America in 2023. Nothing, no piece of clothing was made in America just about. It wasn't like that when I was your age. Things have changed a lot in the last 25 years. A lot. What else? They create the armed forces. And militia. This is going to be a big issue. The states want to control the militia. It says here, Congress arms, equips, and trains the militia. Or the term they would use for training and equipping was regulated. Next, they declare war. The idea was a tyrant, they knew, like a king, and they went through British history, knew kings who went to war without parliamentary approval. So Congress would declare war. Now, of course, Congress has pretty much given up that power and let the president do what the president wants. When's the last time the United States has declared war? World War II. Yeah, World War II. And we've been at war in some way every day of your life. Somewhat. Congress basically told the president you can do whatever you want. So the Congress would decide. They let the president decide to go to war. That by definition. Yeah. So they said go do it. Because Congress doesn't want to deal with the political fallout. And there's a few more in here. Now there's a lot of powers. I'm not going to get into every single one, like they can write certain laws, unless you want to get into tribunals. Okay, you don't want to get into tribunals? Okay, all right, we'll move on. And I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting? Kind of a big one. Let me look at the Constitution real quick. Everyone relax. Which one am I forgetting?
I know.
No, okay. All right. But let's get to the last one. I showed you there's a whole list of laws. Well, there's one more that's really important. Incredibly important. It is so important that it will become the most controversial issue of the United States Constitution. Right here. So, the actual clauses don't have these first few words. So everyone says, it says this, Congress shall have the power, and then it says to make. So, Congress shall have the power, that. So the foregoing powers is that list of enumerated powers that I just showed you. Everyone read that. This is what's called, and everybody write this down, the necessary and proper clause. The necessary and proper clause. So Congress can make all laws which shall be necessary and proper to carry out their other powers. So Congress can make any law that's necessary and proper to carry out the regulation of commerce. Any law to print money, to tax, to coin, specie. They can make any law that's necessary and proper to carry out their other powers. Meaning, what powers does this give Congress? And therefore, the president. Powers to do what? Anything. And that's why you have to get that down. This gave the Congress vast power to pass laws. And therefore, gave what person an incredible amount of power? The president. So everyone got that? So you have to make sure you got that. Necessary and proper, unlimited power, and they call this many times. Let me shut this again. Watch this. Gone. The elastic clause. Do you get it? Like a rubber band. You can stretch it to cover anything. Nowhere does it say that Congress can make a bank but they can print money. They can coin specie. Therefore, wouldn't a bank be necessary? Nowhere does it say Congress can set a minimum wage, but by regulating commerce, they can say it is the best interest in the country. It is necessary for our regulation of commerce to have a minimum wage. Power. Or for that matter, if Congress passes a law that says regulation, you must regulate clean air. There's a number of clean air acts, most importantly, it's 1966 and 1970. But they didn't know all the chemicals that would be bad. They didn't realize how bad and how much mercury was getting in the air until much later. So they said they kind of stretched it to include mercury. That's a key issue because that's in the Supreme Court right now to throw out environmental regulations right now. Right at this moment. It's a big deal. They might throw out all regulations. I'm so tired of not eating lead. When I was a kid, we sucked in all the lead we can get. You people missed out on lead. And I think it's time you start getting some lead in your diet.
Yeah.
I'm not making that up about lead. Yeah. Have a little sympathy for old people. They have a lot of lead in their diet. Huh? Oh yeah, it makes them more vibrant. So you get that, but they don't get the power. They get the power. Now let's do the checks and balances really quick for the bell rings. Checks and balances. Oh, yeah, let's do real quick. The president, if they don't sign a law, what do we call it? Veto. They also have the ability to persuade people. This persuasion, I'm going to use Teddy Roosevelt. He called it the bully pulpit. The pulpit's where a minister talks. Bully just means aggressive, energized, like a bull moose. Teddy Roosevelt always beat his chest. And the president has power to influence. Hey, the president talks, it's news. So the president can influence people. Now, sometimes this could have negative effects. And modern presidents, they all understand. They say something that has great impact. If you know anything about when Trump was president, President Trump understood that power, and he dominated it by never quit talking. So, what can the executive do? Or the legislative? They can override a veto. But this is really hard to do. 2/3 of a vote. So all the president has to do is threaten a veto. That's where we're going to quit today, but I have homework for you. Now, I know what you're thinking. We want homework. I'm going to give you one more day. Originally, I was going to say it's due tomorrow, but I'm not going to do it. It's going to be due on Friday. The last thing in that packet on the Revolutionary War, it says Federalist number 10. You have to read it, and then there are, on the bottom, I put down questions 2 and 3. I lied. You must do questions 2 and 3. And underline number 1. Due on Friday. Everyone got that? Federalist number 10. Underline number 1. Write down 2 and 3. Did everyone hear that? Underline 1, 2, and 3. When's it due? Friday. So I'm giving you one more day.
Did I use the sugar for tomorrow?
This is actually something.
That is it.
Yeah. I thought you wanted to hear me in your other class. You're gonna be gone. Come on.
You're gonna have to underline the.
Yeah. It'll take it 2. It'll take a tomorrow. If you're here, you take the quiz. If not, you take it Friday. It'll take it 2. Yeah.
Any IDs that I got minus one?
Yes, you can do them all. So, and you know when, right? You know when, right? Okay. Yeah, just remind me. Just remind, no swap.
One day where we don't do notes, just one day.
What's that?
Just one day where we don't do notes. Like an activity or something.
They don't find notes.
No. I'm really good at it. I don't find it.
It's like the landowners.
I actually find the notes a lot more fun when you're yelling about something with the hand movements.
Okay.
Is this my testament?
Yeah. Oh, you have a job. Be sure we're doing it.
Oh,
We'll see. Somebody forgot to give it first period. I don't think classes out a lot. Yeah.
Can I wait? I need that. I don't know. I think that was like your favorite.
It's so cold in here.
One of these.
Multiple choice can be tricky. Yeah, you're just responsible. Aurora,
Maybe.
we're in trouble. Again. Ha! How's that for that?
Where's the frisbee?
I'm handing out stuff. I'm throwing things at people. Harder.
Oh, I won't be here tomorrow.
Okay, there'll be a few people gone. We'll talk about it in just a second.
I'm gonna be gone.
You count?
He's not here.
Not paper, but-
No, it's so bad.
Wait, so when are we?
Yeah, well, this is the blank side of the test.
That's always that.
Wait, where are you going?
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought it was like, all right, you're taking this as a get.
I need yours. Okay. Right. Oh, it's so close. I played the airport pretty good. Oh, it's so close. William, have a gift. Nate, McClay.
So, next time we gotta lay it walls,
What?
Oh, dude, bro, stay much.
I can't read that because I don't know.
I only know I have something wrong with right.
I don't know if there's,
In that book, it's not where else.
All right.
so I don't know.
So, quick look at the ones you missed for the multiple choice. I will tell you one thing. I don't think it was this class, but somebody did answer for number 14. Somebody did answer D, and for 22, somebody did answer E.
Hey, neither were me.
Yeah. Somebody did answer those, and I thought, okay. Well, you know what happens? They saw them, and it got their attention and stuck in their head without thinking they put the letter in. At least I'm hoping that's what it was.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
I'm not used to writing cursor.
See? I did.
Which one?
14.
4 was E.
Also,
No.
he said, this is.
14 wanted to be. Who were the Patriots that were
What's that? So, got a few people. Look at the ones you missed. Most of them people got. So let me tell you one thing. Turn around, Cooper. One thing that really some people do miss, and I've noticed this for the many years I've been doing this. I'll get some people that'll miss one multiple choice, And on those, like one, you could like almost tell they were thinking about it and sweating over it, and irritated they didn't know it, or irritated at the question, irritated at the person who wrote the question, but they were preoccupied. And then they might miss 3 or 4. And that happens so many times. You have a limited amount of short-term memory. You don't want to waste it on one question. And so if you do get to a question you don't know, move on as quick as possible and then come back to it. And like if you're doing a Scantron, because that's the world we inhabit, we will do some Scantrons down the road, the AP exams on the Scantron. Like put a little dot so you don't forget and go back. Maybe it'll pop in your head, your mind will be fresher. Or at least you can eliminate and pick your best guess. But if you're preoccupied, that's when you misread, make a dumb mistake, miss one you shouldn't have missed. That happens so often. So, quick, put a dot, move on. And a few more things. I'm really glad that most people got the last 3 correct. Most people got that correct. And also, let me see, here's one in front of me. I was kind of surprised. A lot of people missed number 4. 4, that was B. Britain never got that. Spain got that. I know that was kind of a particular one, but. And also 11. That was one that actually surprised me. That was Declaration of Independence. And I had a few people write down the olive branch petition. I had somebody write down the Southern Strategy, and that one kind of surprised me. Most of the ones are a little more complex, people did pretty well on, so that was good.
Olive branch was written to King George as a Declaration of Independence. Who wrote that?
Wow. I mean, and people just make mistakes. You know, they just misread it. You know, they put the wrong letter down. It happens, but that one surprised me. That's one thing I'm saying. One more thing. A lot of people missed 18. The treaty said they could keep their land. That just didn't happen in practice.
That's why I asked you that.
Yeah.
I got that one right. Yeah.
Okay, let's very quickly talk about the short IDs. Here's the deal for the short IDs. If you got 4 or more wrong on a short ID, I'll let you have a chance to rewrite it. You get some of your credit back. Because I want people to do well on these. And your choices of days of doing it, you have 3 choices. Tomorrow at lunch, tomorrow after school, Friday at lunch. It is absolutely impossible. Did everyone hear those days? I don't want to repeat myself. Tomorrow at lunch, Friday at lunch. I'm sorry, tomorrow at lunch, tomorrow after school, or Friday at lunch. If you miss 4 or more, I'll let you, for this one, any one you miss 4 or more, you can redo. And those you didn't, you did, whatever, but if you did miss 4 or more, you get a chance to get some of those points back, and I want you to do well on this. So that's why I'm giving you this opportunity. So let me quick talk about some of the things I was looking for. Yeah.
Real quick, I saw that for the bonus, it said -1. I was looking at that actually subtracting the point.
No, I didn't subtract it. And so, with that, the first 2 short IDs are about the Declaration of Independence. They're in the Declaration of Independence. I need something about the Declaration of Independence. If you just wrote down, I could write down, it gave you inalienable rights. No, it didn't. It said that you have the inalienable rights. And the British are depriving us of those, and that's why we have a revolution. It's the Declaration of Independence. It's easy to do. You start chunking up in things and not connecting it, not putting it into that word I used before, context. Social contract matters here because it was during the American Revolutionary War. And what did it say? The social contract is the idea from Locke that says governments are there to protect rights. If they infringe on those rights, they could change them. So the big example of that one would be something about like John Locke, or this idea that they listed out the grievances, but they were saying that Britain was depriving people of their rights, and that's why they had the revolution. That's what it led to. That was the big deal. That's the context. Now, next, unalienable rights. Once again, the Declaration of Independence said that we have these rights, that all people have these rights. And what are the rights? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. You had to have that down. I told you unalienable rights would be on the test. If you didn't have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness down, you lost points. And that's kind of a big one. I had people write down the freedom of speech and the press and the right to vote. Declaration of Independence had nothing about that. So that's when I know you're winging it. We've all been in that situation. And as the year goes by, there'll be less opportunity to wing it. And let me rephrase that. Less patience for winging it. It happens. But you have to have life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. An example of those, like life was the freedom or independence, liberty, freedom of conscience, pursuit of happiness, the ability to go as far as your abilities take you, or have something about Locke and life, liberty, and property. And the British were depriving people of their rights. The Declaration of Independence. It did not give you rights. Next, equality. So all men are created equal, and it's equality of opportunity, equality under the law, or equality under the law, and the idea of equality of opportunity. And examples would be, only white men, and that did not include slaves, did not include women. I'm so glad a lot of you put down Abigail Adams. That was great. Really looking for that. And once again, the British were depriving people of their rights. They were, and a good example of that, and two people put that down, I think in this class, where British officials could be tried in London. Remember that from the courts. Okay, let's quick go through the other ones. Fornication laws and Bacon's Rebellion, you had to do one of those. And as I said before, you had to mention something about that led to the slave codes, to divide people so they would drive a wedge through them. That the fornication laws were the most important of the slave codes. And out of that would come needs for both of races. So those are the things you needed. I mean, these are little summaries of the actual law, but didn't really write down what they led to. I'll just put down racism, you're in good shape. And then we have mercantilism, colonial policy, get an empire to accumulate gold, provide raw materials, captive market. Example would be like the Navigation Acts or the Hat Act or the Wool Act. And then what did it lead to? After the French and Indian War, remember the British started enforcing them. So it's something like it led to, like they started enforcing them with the Stamp Act or something. Next one, what are we looking at? Is it Tea Party? We had to mention the Tea Act. I even put it on the list, Tea Act - Tea Party. I had some people write down literally, the colonists were mad at the British so that they threw the tea overboard. What, so whenever we're mad at Britain, we have to go on board a boat and throw tea overboard? Ah, the British, where's my tea? Tea Act, the tax, and the monopoly. And then that led to the coercive acts. I'm glad people put the example of Sons of Liberty and Dressen's Moss for Liberty. That was great. Yeah.
Wasn't it 3 cents a pound for the tax? Or it was 3 cents per something? I can't remember the exact amount, and I didn't write that.
Per the monetary value of a pound sold. So it's essentially 3 cents per pound, like for pounds, their unit of currency.
Oh, per
So,
actual.
yeah.
No.
It's not 3% because they weren't on the decimal system. And what's the last one? The last two, was it, Second Continental Congress, something about, after Lexington and Concord, met as the de facto form of government. And I was looking for anything from picking Washington, printing a currency, olive branch petition, and this would be the government that would do the Declaration of Independence. Southern strategy, people did a good job about that, but I needed examples of what happened and what it led to, like Camden, the guerrillas like Francis Mary, or Guilford Courthouse, culminating with Yorktown and the British wars. Just need specific examples. Now I'm saying that most people did really well on that, and most of the points I took off would be things like you didn't write down the rights. And I hope when I said life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that you didn't write that down. You went, I knew that. And here's the thing, I know what happens when you write a test, you just forget. That's one of the reasons I went over brainstorming this. so they don't forget, because we all forget. So when can you do the makeup for what days? And when lunch, Thursday, Friday, Thursday after school. Now, if it's something where you're literally not at school both days, come talk to me individually. If not, come quick do it. A lot of you don't have to worry about it. I will give you opportunities. I want good short IDs. Yeah. When's your study hour? If you come in tomorrow and get a pass, I'll do it. Okay? Just come in really quick individual and ask me and I'll do it. I'll just throw in the hallway. All right, everybody then, this is what I want you to do. I need this test back. Oh, if I made a mistake adding 50 points apiece for the short IDs, 1 point apiece for the matching, or multiple choice. If I make a mistake in your favor, I get to select winning the lottery. You know, you're locked out. If I make a mistake and it hurts you, please let me know. I'm going through it. I might make a mistake. I know. I do that just so you feel better when you make a mistake. And I'll put it in the grade book. I might accidentally type the wrong key. It's hard for me to edit on the screen, so I might miss it. Just let me know, I'll give you the points. Not a big deal. Everybody turn in this. You can keep your answer sheet, you can turn in this. Someone has their hand up. Keep that for the scrapbook. How? How did they do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, I don't like it.
Okay. Give me an example. There we go. I want a better one. Yeah.
I was the only one getting that. So.
I thought it was only grade.
And then Ellis is in second grade. Or Ellis is in second grade.
They all look the exact same.
You know, maybe I just got the wrong.
And like Ellis, I mean,
It's like way taller.
Ellis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might.
Yeah, probably.
So,
Yeah, I'm fair with that. Yeah, I'll grade it. I miss, just might have missed something or just got in my head. Yeah.
about that example,
Yeah. Just ask me real quick, no problem. Yeah, if I want, if I think if I make a mistake or I'm not clear, let me know. I know what I mean, but sometimes it just, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead then and you can start.